This is a Czechoslovakian airliner. Now, the place was full of Russians probably a year or two ago. There's not a Russian in the country anymore. On the way into town, there's a one-lane road about 40 miles. There's a lot of this building going on. They don't have much, but they are able to make bricks, so they build up all kinds of stuff out of bricks. A lot of these on the roads and beside the roads. This is the main work animal. This is the tractor of Asia, the water buffalo. This is the bridge going across the Red River into Hanoi. On the left here is Hanoi. And that's the Paul de Mer Bridge. And when we left in 1973, that was in the water, as was the one we rode over on. We went to a little guest house and these gals greeted us. And they're all cute and they're all very nice. The people over there were very nice to us. But this was the first night. It was a quick turnaround in Hanoi and then off to Hue. Now, Hue is in the center of Vietnam. It was the northern part of South Vietnam. It's the imperial city, and it's where all the rulers came from in the old days. We got on this old Russian turboprop. About 50s technology, and I was nervous because I knew that the Russians had left with all the spare parts, and I also knew that, and I intuitively felt that the Vietnamese were doing no preventive maintenance at all. But we made it. Now on the way to Hue, this is some of the countryside. This is on Route 1. Going from Da Nang to Hue. Beautiful country, hilly. These are rice paddies. There's a railroad on the left. This old girl selling us oranges. These stops were strategically located where people could sell stuff. And that thing of oranges was about 10 cents. And they chuckled all the way to the bank. That was a Toyota van, too. Notice I said Toyota, not Ford, Chevy, Dodge, or any of that stuff. Toyota. The Japanese are in there big, and nobody else is. This is another scene on the way from Da Nang to Hue. I'm told this is a lumber colony. I don't know what it is. This is the Kim Do Hotel we stayed in Hue. Average by our standards, luxurious by theirs. This is the Perfume River in Hue. These are sampans on the Perfume River. People live in these things. And why they call it the Perfume River, I don't know. It defies all logic. Everything that you can do with the water is done in that water. The world's first internal combustion engine is on this motorized sampan. How they keep these things going, I don't know. This little girl paddled out in that aluminum boat probably made out of a busted up airplane. And the kids are real cute over it. Now this is the market in Hue. And all I can say is that those of you who've been to the Far East probably remember what it smells like. Well, this really smells. Those fish, I don't know how long they've been sitting there. This is a view from one of the monuments or the palaces in Hue. They have a lot of pagodas, the Imperial Palace and all this kind of stuff, and they paraded us into this because it's one of the better parts of Vietnam. They don't have the money to keep it up, and the Japanese have given them some. Now that horse is about the only one I'll ever get on. And just to show you they weren't all beautiful. Now this one's probably got about 100 pounds on each end of that stick. And she walked up with that, put him down, blew her nose on the street, and picked it up and walked off again. A real sweetie. Now these two for about a third of a cent, you can weigh yourself. They're all cute as hell. Now this guy was our guide, but I suppose he reported back to the party on our conduct every day. This guy kind of went with the wind. He was on the side that, whatever side won, he would be on. Buddhist temple. Now these little guys, this little guy on the right must be about 7 or 8 years old. And they start at that age and they stay in this monastery until they die. And these little guys never moved their eyes for the whole hour they chanted through this thing. It was amazing. A typical family. You see those young girls with those babies. The population has doubled over there since 1970. These two guys followed me around. There was a gunman place on the top of one of those hills behind that archway. I missed it. This is a prison we call the plantation. This is the prison I was released from. It's an army base. This is a typical scene. They do the irrigating by hand. I never saw a motor, electric motor, a power-driven tool of any sort anywhere in that country. I'm not saying there wasn't. I never saw one. They do have electricity in the cities. And they're irrigated with little bucket baskets of water. They dump it into one thing and they pour it in the other and it runs around the rice field. And these guys are making planks with a handsaw. They don't have sawmills. They draw, I don't know how they draw the line, but these two guys will sit there and they don't take their eyes off of that line, and they'll cut boards just as true as you ever saw. And there's an indicator of what might be going on in that river. We're in Way, this is the hospital. They're having a meeting deciding what to do about the kids. And there's a couple of them with cleft lips. And it's pretty, this is Donna's sister holding these two kids. And there's the black guy is a retired Navy doctor. He's an anesthesiologist, the one with us. And these two little guys are going to get operated on. And there's the bunch of the families waiting for the children to get screened. And they sat out there for a couple of days and they never uttered a peep. This is what a hospital ward looks like. That little mat, underneath that mat's a building. They don't have mattresses. Nor did we. When we were in jail, we didn't have mattresses. When you sleep pretty good, you don't think you can, but you can. There's a little girl with a cleft lip. And there's one thing, and there's after they fixed it. That scar will go away, and there won't be much there. It looks pretty good. This is the picture I like the most. This kind of brings it all into perspective. This is a North Vietnamese communist soldier. These are the guys we were trying to kill every one of them. And what's he thinking about? He's thinking about getting his kids to live fixed. You begin to wonder when you go off on one of these missions and you drop a bunch of bombs on them and you come back to your air-conditioned room and eat your ice cream, what's really going on? Well, that's what's going on. Now, these are two veterans in what their version of a wheelchair. And these buildings behind there are typical North Vietnamese buildings. In fact, I lived in several of them, which just like that, and behind the bars, and they were boarded up so we couldn't see outside. And there's part of the crew. The two Vietnamese girls are college students. Okay, I got one more. It isn't very long. Bear with me. Okay, we're in the same place again. the airport. The man in the center, the light suit, his name is Dr. Kwan. He's the head of plastic surgery in Vietnam, the head of microsurgery. He's the assistant director of the biggest hospital. He's a general in the North Vietnamese Medical Corps, military advisor of the hospital. He works about 6 days a week, about 12 hours a day, and he makes $360 a year. There's a few perks involved, I'll tell you about that. The one in the middle is named Mr. New. He's in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And he's the one that agreed with me that the Great Socialist Society didn't work. It didn't, because people would not do their jobs. He said they came late, they left early, and when they were there, they didn't do anything. That's quite an admission from a communist. They have busted up all the collective farms. They're exporting food now for the first time since 1965. The guy on the end in the white shirt is Dr. Sun. He was kind of my horse holder. And the nurse with the flowers was the best looking nurse in the hospital, and she got to greet everybody and hand them flowers. And it sure beat rifle butts, I can tell you that. This is the Ministry of Defense. Rooms, bathrooms, and they're kind of westernized. That's where they put their foreign guests. And they collect for this in dollars. It's about $22 a day. They don't want lira, they don't want yen, they don't want pounds, they don't want dong, they want dollars. And that's my point. You don't go to bed without a mosquito net. This was their prize fighter during the war, and it still is. It's a MiG-21. And mind you where, Eric, I'm sorry. And this is a MiG-17 early. We shot down almost all of these. What they would do, this is a MiG-19, what they would do is they'd take off, make one pass at us, and then go back and land in China or something, or land in one of the fields that we weren't allowed to bomb. MiG-21 cockpit trainer. This is their Aerospace Museum. A little bit crude, but I guess it's effective. That's the plantation prison again. And this guy was one of the guards outside the plantation. He wanted his picture taken. That's one of the few guns I saw over there. During the war, everyone had a gun. This is the only gun, one of the few guns I saw, and only outside of military bases. This is the big house, and that's why we call it the plantation. This pink building was there. We never got in it. The market. This is street scene. That's their traditional dress. Must have been a graduation from school or something. This is a college or university behind it. I don't know what that is. I don't know why I even took it. A lot of flowers. They sell everything in the street. Flowers, all the vegetables. In fact, on my way to the hospital every morning, if I left early enough, I would see the daily pig being butchered. They'd bring in a pig, put him on the sidewalk, butcher him, cut him up, put him on little tables, and sell it right there. They don't have much refrigeration. I took this because this is noon in the capital city, and an ox is pulling a wagon full of bamboo poles and stuff. There's very little air pollution here, I might add, because there aren't many vehicles. And this was outside of one of the guest houses where some of our people were staying, and they're all in Western clothes, a wedding. And these little gals had commandeered a ride from the Sequel driver. Now, they don't look like they're starving to me. The one thing they have is food. They don't have much else. They don't have much medicine. They don't have many tools. They don't have any money. But they are able to raise food. This monument was put up for John McCain. They shot him down and landed in that lake. And this monument was for the brave gunners who bagged him. And I sent him a picture of this one. I said, John is covered with pigeon crap. Notice, ladies, that you don't plug these in. You're still able to make dresses by moving your feet. We went to an orphanage. They always parade visitors to things like this, and they put on a little show for us. The kids over there are really cute. They take care of their children over there. They don't sell them. They're very family-oriented, and there aren't many orphans in the whole country. Kind of makes you want to take one home. This is Ho Chi Minh's tomb in the ceremonial guard. He's in there, and he looks just like he's asleep. They got him all preserved, and every 5 years or so they send him up. They used to send him to Moscow, get him fixed up a little bit, and they bring him back. This is our crew outside of his official, Ho Chi Minh's official residence, which I think was the old French governor's place. There's Ho Chi Minh's real house. And this is a young doctor, Chinese doctor, that went with us, a plastic surgeon, really a good guy. When you go to a place like this, they parade you to various theaters, and you have to go. This wasn't bad. It was all modern songs, love songs, pretty girls, and it was pretty nice. This was a traditional theater where you had a and it was horrible. This is Dr. Fawn's youngest daughter, and she's quite pretty, so I was happy to have my picture taken with her. She's a medical student. There's Dr. Fawn and his family. One of his daughters is a doctor, the other one's in med school, the other one's an economist, one son-in-law is a lawyer, I don't know what the other one is, and a couple of grandchildren. As I say, he makes $360 a year, but they give him a very nice house, a car and driver, and the like. Now, they don't know what DWI is over there. This driver was drunk all the time. It really doesn't matter, I guess, because they only have a road and you just drive in the middle of it. Those are his three daughters and son-in-law. Now, I'll tell you a little bit about inflation. I'll make it quick. In 1970, the dong, 9 dong to $1. In November of this year, it was 13,500 dong to $1. And for those of you who are retired on limited income, if you could handle it, you could eat yourself to death over there on the buck. It wouldn't be worth it. This was in called the Piano Bar number 2, and I'm sure you recognize what that means. But I'm surprised at how much freedom they have over there. The plasters, some American went in there and plastered that out there and it stayed there. Nobody ripped it down, nobody cared. 5 or 10 years ago, it would have been impossible. The music on the radio is Western style music, rock music, and all that stuff. There's no rah-rah music. I only heard the Communist International once. There are no banners hanging outside proclaiming the wonders of socialism. They seem to have quite a bit of freedom. Now, this is the POW MIA team after a couple of years. These guys are the ones that are looking for mostly remains. They're looking for live people, but they haven't been able to find any. But they search out the remains and they send them home. One of the highlights of my visit was to go inside the Wallow prison to the Hanoi Hilton. And here I am having tea with the camp commander. He was very uncomfortable about this. It was pretty obvious that the higher-ups that made him do this, and he didn't like it at all, but he was trying to be polite, but since he couldn't speak English, it didn't matter a whole lot. This is outside of one of the first cells I was in. And this is from the inside. There's no padlock on that door. I made sure of that. Okay, that concludes the slideshow. I'd like to sum it up by saying that I think we're in the process of normalizing relations with them. I think we should do it. I think there's a lot of opportunities over there. Most of the people are okay. It's just like any other place. It's the boys in charge aren't too good. And we might have that problem over here too. Now, I appreciate being able to talk to you. I tried to get through it because I know that there's a long program here tonight. If anybody wants to ask any questions, I can take a couple of them.
Do you have any live prisoners left?
In my opinion, no. But that's my opinion. If some guys would fight me for saying that.
What did you do to fill your time? How to keep your hopes up?
I cried a lot. No, I wasn't a very productive person. Some people built shopping centers in their mind, and some of them solved differential equations, and I just kind of daydreamed about airplanes and boats and girls and stuff.
Did you get reading material?
Oh. Every now and then they'd come in with some accounting stuff, but there was no reading material. Just they had nothing to occupy your time. You couldn't work. You couldn't do anything.
Maybe the guys lost with Section 8, essentially?
I mean, yeah. Unfortunately, a few did, and they didn't get home. One or two of them did. We had guys who refused to eat, thought they were getting fat, that kind of stuff. And they just went, if they were in solitary confinement, there was no hope for them. If they were not, somebody could maybe bring them out.
What was the solitary confinement if you were there?
Well, I think they would have had us all there all the time if they'd had the space and come in and could have managed it. Because when you're by yourself, you're no threat to them. They can break you down easier, and you won't organize against them. They were terribly afraid of you organizing against them and escaping and all that.
Would they even object to a Bible or something like that?
Oh, yeah. Bible? No way. No, they don't like that stuff. Yes.
What was your first reaction when you got out in 5 years, seeing the world 5 years later?
Well, my first thought was, as I was going in, mini skirts hadn't quite started, and when I got out, they were all over. Thank you very much.
Well, from the sound of the call, Ed, we really appreciate your in-depth presentation of what life was like in Vietnam. Unfortunately for you, that you didn't have a happy ending. I have something that I want to present to you on behalf of the Laning crew. If you'll step forward, I'll make sure that this happens.
Now I'm shooting at a mirror, so you're eating two figures here.
As a memento of our appreciation for your accepting the presentation that you made for us as our honored guest, and also setting up the Academy Day. We sincerely appreciate that, and this memento, as I read it, states that this certifies Captain E. Arthur Shulman, the third USN retired, as an honorary member of the USS Laning DE-159 APD-55, and in appreciation as an honored guest at the Annapolis reunion, April 16th, 1992.
Thank you very much, Eric. I'm honored. I just don't want any of my aviator friends to know them.
I see something in the envelope that's addressed to Ben also. And I'm sure that to keep his orders straight from the instructions of the woman in the house, we also give you one of these to use what you wish, however you want to, on your refrigerator. And now we'll move on to the next item. We have, at this time, a document that is straight from the governor's office, the governor of Maryland, through the efforts of Donna Schumann, who works at the governor's office, by the way, very instrumental in this official proclamation, which I have here, and I'm going to read the proclamation, but I think I'm going to defer to Ned to do this, and I'll get on with something else that also is something from the governor's office. So I know we thank her, and Ned, if you'll come forward and read the proclamation, I think the troops here will know how the governor's office of the state of Maryland feels toward the USS Laning.
The State of Maryland, proclamation, USS Laning, DE-159/APD-55, April 16, 1992. Whereas the USS Laning, a destroyer escort, served as a fighting ship of the United States Atlantic Fleet, Pacific Fleet, in World War II from the date of her commissioning until 1 August 1943, until she was decommissioned on 28 June 1946 and entered the Atlantic Reserve Fleet. And whereas the USS Laning participated with distinction in naval operations and the rescue of survivors of the torpedoed and sunken sister ship, the USS Speckler, during the North African campaign, and transported the 125 survivors to Gibraltar, 5 May 1944. And whereas the USS Laning was redesignated on 24 November 1944 to APD-55 as a high-speed transport trained with underwater demolition teams in Maui, Hawaii, and islands. And whereas the USS Laning received authorization for UDT flagship to depart for the Far East with UDT-9 for the Pacific Theater of Operations at Okinawa, joining the 7th Fleet Occupation Forces of Korea and China. And whereas Captain E. Arthur Schumann, Jr., the officers and crew of the USS Laning, are meeting in a reunion in Annapolis, Maryland in April 1992 to renew friendships and to remember those who gave their lives in the service of their country. And whereas it is fitting and proper that recognition be given to the memory of the USS Laning, to her former officers and crew members living and deceased. Now, therefore, I, William Donald Schaefer, Governor of the State of Maryland, do hereby proclaim April 16, 1992 as USS Laning DE-159/APD-55 Day in Maryland, and do commend this observance to all of our citizens. Signed, William Donald Schaefer.
and every shipmate here this evening as a memento of this proclamation. Now, the proclamation I hope to place in the War Memorial in Baltimore. I suppose I mentioned it to several, but perhaps not all, that we do have, I think, an outstanding display of DE memorabilia and artifacts that were gathered primarily during the World War II years. So if you ever get a chance to visit downtown Baltimore, please stop in at the Baltimore War Memorial, and I think it'll bring back some memories. Now, moving on to another document here, it's very official, and I would like Captain Schumann to come to the podium, please. Now, this is a real honor of distinction, and it's not a liberal document that is given to frequently to anyone who's undeserving. As we all know, we have a skipper here that can handle a DE like nobody else, and I know this to be a fact that I can remember how he would DE jockey down Hampton Roads and just moving right along. I know, God, everyone, are we going to get through this? Are we going to run right into a pier? But he knew how to slow that plumber down and ease her right into the pier, and I think that this more or less attests to the fact that he's deserving, and I shall read this to all, also to Captain Schumann. From the state of Maryland, having trust and confidence in your integrity, prejudice, or rather prudence, ability, you are hereby appointed and commissioned Admiral of the Chesapeake Bay. Captain E. Arthur Schumann, Jr., a rank of respect gratefully conveyed to these with a loyal interest in the maritime state and its beautiful bay, which harbors the ships of the world. This certificate is awarded with our official confidence that you will continue to merit our esteem and favor. Witness, William Donald Shaver, Governor, State of Maryland. Before you sit down again, I have one more thing that I'd like to do. You'd like to park that here? Here we are. Have to find some room, and I'll do that.
I'm shooting at a mirror, that's why I'm getting two images here. Yeah, I'm getting two images here. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, wait. Yeah. The guy from the Fleckler?
And a Laning next to it.
This model was crafted conceived by Curtis Toombs, one of the survivors that the Laning took aboard on that fateful day, May the 5th, 1944. And he said he could not be here. I invite him to join with us. And at one of the Fechler Laning reunions, Captain Schumann admired the model that he had there at the time. And he said, boy, I'd love to have one of those. So Curtis Toombs decided he's going to make sure that Captain Schumann gets one. So he did. He did this for him, and he knew he would be here, and he shipped it to me, well packaged, and I preserved all the packaging so that it'll remain intact when it's shipped from this point. Dear Captain Schumann, in behalf of 186 survivors of the Fechler DE-157, I take great pride in building this model of the Laning and Fechler as we saw them May 5th, 1944. If not for you and your brave crew, a lot of 157 survivors would not have survived. It took a lot of guts to stop your ship dead in the water and pick up survivors with the submarine still in the area. I and the crew of the Fechler will forever be in your debt. I'm sorry I won't be able to make the presentation myself. I asked Eric Kent, one of your crew, a very close friend of mine, to make the presentation for me. I am committed to be at the Fechler reunion in Texas at about the same time as the Laning reunion. Maybe next year we can get together and reminisce about our experience in the Mediterranean Sea. I am committed to be at the Fechler reunion in Texas at about the same time as the Laning reunion. And I think that I just read this. So I'll move on to the next paragraph. Thanks, Captain Schumann. For the past 48 years, I have enjoyed, which may not have been possible, if not for the heroic act you and your brave crew, your ever grateful friend, Curtis W. Toombs, Jr., motor machinist, second class, USS Fechler, DE-157.
You're the people, not me. You're the people that operated the ship. You're the people that made the rescues. And this is all you're doing, the whole thing. And I'm proud to be a member of the crew, the USS Laning.
This is the photo station now.
Regarding the proclamation from the governor's office, there are also pins to be passed out later on in the course of events here as a token from the state of Maryland, the governor's office. It's a U.S. flag and Maryland state pin with some appropriate design that you can leave here with a memento for the occasion. Now, recognitions are continuing to flow, so let me rack my brains and figure out where I placed it. I have here a letter of recognition. It has the White House seal. It's here, the White House, Washington, April 8, 1992. As a former Navy pilot during World War II, I am delighted to send my warmest greetings to the members of the USS Laning DE-159 APD-55. As you gather in Annapolis for your reunion, the United States owes a lasting debt of gratitude to our veterans who fought so valiantly and endured so much to defend our country during World War II. The record of the USS Laning DE-159 APD-55 is one of courage, honor, and distinguished service. Your patriotism and your sacrifices have enabled America to remain a land of freedom and of opportunity. And on behalf of all Americans, I salute you. As you enjoy seeing old friends and reminiscing about old times together, I join you in honoring the memory of your comrades who are no longer with you. They, like you, will never be forgotten. Your heroism enabled the United States Navy to carry out its unique and vital mission during the Allied struggle against tyranny and aggression. You have every right to be proud of your service to our country. Barbara joins me in sending best wishes for a memorable reunion and for every future success. God bless you, George Bush. This also will be displayed in an honored place. And as I mentioned regarding the proclamation from the governor's office, I do have copies for each of you, which will also be passed out later on in the printer. Now, I think that it's time that we should also remember those who couldn't be here. And what I'm alluding to right now are the well wishes from the shipmates that I received during corresponding and regarding to promote the reunion. I'll just highlight, I'm not going to read our letter. I'll give you the source and also some of the brief comments. This letter is to me from W.F. Bottoms, Bill Bottoms, Lieutenant Bottoms. He said, please, in the final paragraph, please keep me informed at any future activities. Give my best to my shipmates, sincerely Bill. Bill is having medical problems right now. He'd love to be here. Also from Lieutenant Talley, Bill Talley, he states here that your working plan is making doubly hard not to attend what should be a fantastic reunion. Please tell Captain Schumann that I'll re-enlist if the naval attaché position in the Argentine is still open. I joined the DESA, so I'll be looking for reunion photos in the newspapers. Also some letter from, or some words from Bingham, Harold Bingham. He states here it's just too far away from California to make such a trip at this time. Thanks for your efforts to get the ships coming together. What I'd like to see happen is a near get-together for us who live in the Far West. From Bernard Ernie Bankowski. Sounds like a very interesting and mighty reunion. Sorry I can't make it. Also from Clay, West Virginia. Though I'm not in a position to attend this reunion schedule, I send you my best wishes for success in all you're doing. And from Jim Jim Graham. Jim Graham, as you know, is, we're indebted to Jim because he did grab the bull by the horns and decided, hey, we're going to have a Laning reunion, and he did so about 2 years ago. He placed an ad in the BMW magazine, and we caught it, and several others did too. And we started there with a small group of 6 of us, and now we've grown many, many times that size. So our hats are off to Jim Graham, and he's suffering a health problem right now. I thought I would share these comments with you, and I'll move right along here now. Okay, Cosmo, I need your assistance right now, if you will. We have something here that is as you can see before us, is a mystery. And is a mystery guest. It goes to the heart and soul of something that we held dear to it, we didn't realize is so much then. But thinking back, at least to me, I knew that it was something that would touch your hearts. And I think you'll agree, because I know I'm going to get my handkerchief out. That shipmate, the ladies and guests, is the original Laning bell. It took some research, but by a stroke of luck, we got a handle on it. And
There's always a little seamanship on that rope.
How's on the audience work, AD?
Numbers, every sound and stuff, not me.
You ring a bell with us, Skipper.
this is the only material thing that's left off of the USS Laning. The ship went to scrap in 1975.
I beg to differ with you on that.
How's that?
Skipper's got something down there in his yard. John King Silver. Yeah, he's got the holder and the forward anchor light.
So Cosmo and I put our heads together, and in order for me to get the transfer of that bell, I'll give you the story. It's well covered in the Bernardsville newspaper, and we're going to pass a copy of this newspaper. The reporter did an excellent job about the recovery of the bell, and you'll get a copy of the newspaper too before you leave. Compliments of Cosmo, because Cosmo just lives about 10 miles from Bernardsville, and there's a story behind this, and it's very touching. And he didn't know it until I didn't know it. You're right. I told Cosmo. So we decided that a bell that had so much value and was such a, I guess you could say, the heart and soul of the ship, although we didn't realize it, we knew when that bell was sounding on the hour and a half bar that we knew that things were right. And we had a plaque engraved, and it's a real nice plaque, which is well engraved, and Cosmo had this done. His neighbor, who was so grateful for some of the services that Cosmo helped her with, decided she'd like to make a contribution toward this end, and the inscription reads, USS Laning, DE-159/55, August 43, December 75, in quotes, sounding the watch for its able crew through calm and stormy seas. Original bell, World War II, commissioned August 43, decommissioned June 46. E. Arthur Schuman, Jr., Captain, Bell discovered New Jersey, retrieved to the efforts of shipmates Eric Kent and Cosmo Martelli, February 1992.
It's another photo session.
Now, to briefly describe how this all came about, Helen and I were at the archive in Washington researching ship's records. We weren't looking for something like this in particular. We were looking for more or less documents with personnel records and ship's records. And but we were in the curator's office, and the curator's assistant were working with us. She placed a microfiche, or I guess a microfilm on the equipment. And lo and behold, she's going through to see if there's any physical remains of the Laning, and sure enough, there it was. The only thing left was the bell. And the way the bell came about was this: that during the initial decommissioning, the bells were sent to a depot in San Diego. I guess it was felt that it's a item that would lend itself to theft, so they decided to store these perhaps for some future use. But what happened is this: that after lying in storage for some time, there about 1958, I believe, one church Presbyterian church in Bernardsville put a request in for a bell. So the Navy loaned them the bell, and they subsequently sold the church. They built another parish, and they sold it to a Knights of Columbus. So I got busy corresponding and putting my bid in for this bell, because I knew it would mean more to us than a bell that was just sitting there, not being used. And as it turned out, the Knights of Columbus alarmed back, hey, this is going to cost something to get this thing off the tower. So I led her back to the curator's office. Well, I'll be willing to bear the cost, provided it wasn't too outlandish, or at least share it. So then we happened to hit a stalemate, and the light flashed. And I said, my God, I said, Cosmo doesn't live that far from Bernardsville. So I gave Cosmo a call, and he said, I'll be damned. He said, are you sure? I said, I must have passed that damn thing about 1,000 times in my life. He said, I didn't know that bell was up there in that tower. He said, let me go down and take a look at it. I know if it's a way to get it down, he said, I'm going to get it. So I gave him the approval letter from the curator's office, which gave us authority to recover this bell. And so the following day, Cosmo gave me a call, and he's all excited. He said, Eric, he said, I'm getting a fire department. He said, my son Mike is in that fire department, and we get that ladder company up there, and we're going to get it. He said, but you know something? He said, when I saw that fellow, I looked up there, he said, and the tears just welled up in my eye. You know? He said, I cried like a baby. So complexity of this, the government is very stingy with the way they allow their material to be dispersed, unless they're guaranteed, and that they sell it, of course, that you're going to take care of it. So I gave them that assurance. I told them I would restore it, and I would have a suitable plate made, and it's going to be mounted in the Baltimore War Memorial, which will be a centerpiece with our plaques that are down there. We have some huge plaques in the showcase, and it's going to be there for posterity, so that's what I plan to do. And in order to do that, this is the authorizing letter from H.A. Benaeus, Jr., the head of the Courier Branch, Department of the Navy, and he states there's a short letter. This is in reply to the recent letter concerning the change of location of the bell from USS Laning, DE-159/APD-55. Thank you for the copy of the article about the bell. I don't know if you recall or not, but not too long ago there was an article in the paper about a bell that went down on an old ship in the the English Channel off the coast of France, and it was being held for sale at a pretty high price from someone who was in the antique business, and it was discovered that, hey, this is a historical item, and that is the U.S. Navy decided we wanted to recover this. And by the way, you'll see this article and also a picture of this that I'm referring to down at the Navy Museum in the Navy Yard tomorrow. So it's something that feel belongs to those who have the closest to it. And we certainly do. So he said, thank you for the letter, for the copy of the article about the bell. We are grateful to you and your crew for recovering the bell from former church steeple and burner its ability and making it available to your reunion group. Enclosed for your signature is a temporary loan agreement for the bell. After reunion, I would appreciate you passing on to us the name of the custodian of the Baltimore War Memorial. Because the bell will be in his permanent custody, he is the individual who will be responsible to us for the ongoing security and exhibition of the bell. For this reason, we will prepare an indefinite loan agreement for his signature rather than the Maryland chapter of DESA, because I told him that I felt that was a worthy organization. He thought that organizations like this can come and go, and at least the Baltimore War Memorial is there for a long, long time. And he had before that folks presented to the head of the War Memorial in Baltimore. So that's how the story of the bell developed, and this is where we are now. So I know I was touched by it. I'm sure that you are too, because it's something that you say, gee, this is something that just follows us around, and we follow it around, whatever. So there it is. Now it's time for you guys to get your 2 cents in. If you recall, the last communique, we said, put your thinking caps on, think back hard, and we thought that with the number of years we had so many stories that we limit. I mean, we have to, because time is running on. 3 minutes to tell us a story, a C story, a B story, or whatever, of the past. And perhaps since I haven't, I'm going to give the phone to those who want to come to the podium and do this, but I'm going to give my 2 cents in first. I can remember a number of things, but one thing that was my daughter Mary, as I actually did. She said, Dad, why don't you tell the one about the inspection the captain shooting? Well, he didn't do many, but he did do some inspections. And I was at RT, and my responsibility was the Radio Shack. Primarily, we stored electronic parts there, and a whole rack of vacuum tubes in order to keep the vacuum tubes from bouncing around during rough weather. There was a grid that was attached to the front of it, and I've seen that shack now as one of my crew. sir, in order to clean that as well. I'll tell you what happened. The captain came around and he went into the radar transmitter shack. He looked to the right where the transmitters were, and looked forward where the parts were stored, and then he looked to the left and he came around and he saw the tube locker and he went, a big cloud of dust came out. He said, Kent, it looks like all that you have done is just separate the dust. So I wanted to make sure that lightning doesn't strike again. And I thought, well, how can I get around this? So I got to talking with the guys in the radio shack, and Dave Bader said, I tell you what, Eric, he said, Captain Schumann is afraid of high voltage. They got all these high voltage signs that never posted. Yeah. I said, okay, that's what we want to do. So in the hatch that went into the radar transmitter shack, I put 2 high voltage signs over above, 2 on the side. You couldn't miss it. And I put them there permanent. We'll see what happens at the next inspection. So at the next inspection, Captain Schumann came in and he proceeded through the radio shack. And then he went started to proceed through the radar shack and through all these high voltage signs. And I think so like the captain kept it at the high voltage. Oh, he said, okay. He said, listen, he said, looks pretty good here, Ken. Okay, having said that, who would like to volunteer to give their 3-minute story? Okay, we have Wade coming forward. When you're going to time.
I can't verify this. I was in the fire room, and they tell me that one night we had a very severe storm. It was foggy. We couldn't see too far. And I don't know whether John or Fred was the OD on the bridge at the time. But they noticed this light that we were bearing down on. They told the radioman, send a message to them, tell them to change their course. We're going to have a collision. They sent the message. The message came back. I can't change my course. They sent another message. The same answer come back. I can't change my course. So either Fred or John said, get Captain Schumann up here. He has the way. So Captain Schumann comes to the bridge, and he says, send this message to that man on that light over there. Tell him this is Captain Schumann. I'm the commander of the destroyer escort, and I want you to change your course. The answer came back, I'm a Fred Seaman, John Smith, and I'm a lighthouse. You better change your course. One day after the sinking of the Fetchler, I was sitting on the main deck and I was talking with one of the other snipes, and he gave me this poem. I don't know who it was. Maybe it was one of you. But this is the poem he gave me. I've carried it for all these years, and 2 weeks ago my wife went and dug it out. I can't find it, and she dug it out of my debris. I took it over to my daughter, and she typed it up. So I have a copy for anybody who'd like to have it. It says, a sailor departing from this life rode up to the pearly gates, shouting, ahoy there, to St. Peter, and asked if he was too late. St. Peter said, you're not too late. In fact, you're just on time. But judging from your uniform, I first must judge your line. Please tell me of your wondering, as you did your country serve, of all your vice and love affairs, and I will judge if you deserve to enter these gates of pearl, that I must guard so well. And I hope you can qualify. If not, you're bound for hell. Well, I hit most of the ports and sailed most every sea. On the USS Laning, a small DE. But disregard the story of a girl in every port. I know since searching far and wide, there's none left in this world. Stop, stop, please say no more, St. Peter said real rough. For when you mention serving on a DE, you say more than a nut. So step through these pearly gates, don't try to turn and go, for I know you've seen enough of hell while down below. And it was an anonymous. I don't know who gave it to me. Maybe you're here tonight. But I've kept it for those 40 some odd years, and I've got copies if anybody wants it.
I get chills. Back in 1944, Sound first Rex McFerrin, who's now passed on, and 3 other men from the Laning, we decided it'd be a good idea if we hitchhiked up to D.C. and saw the sights. So we took off one bright and early Friday morning, and on our way, a lad come by in a panel truck. And he picked us up and asked us where we were going. We told him D.C. He said, that's where I'm going. He said, I'm off a battleship out of Norfolk. And he said, this is my father's bank. So we crossed the 14th Street Bridge. I've never seen so many cop cars in my life. They come down on us like something on hockey, you know, on a street. And locked us up, put us in a brig down there in town, called the SPs. They came out, picked us up, took us out to Annapolis, the naval brig. And they put us in there and they had us charged with auto theft and bank robbery. Man, I was a young seaman, you know, here I am 18 years old, right off the farm, scared to death. Knew I was going to Portsmouth, just knew it. So the first thing we did was send the captain's mass on Monday morning. And the captain, we told him our sad tale. This young lad wasn't even in the Navy. And he told them that he had stolen a vehicle and had robbed the bank, and we had nothing to do with it. So they sent us back to the ship on straggler's orders. And of course, the first thing we had to do was go see Captain Schumann. And I'm about to do something in my drawer because I just knew he was going to send me to Portsmouth. So we got up to Captain Schumann's mast, and he said, you know, he said, you people done a bad thing. You almost missed the ship. But he said, I think you suffered enough. I'm going to let you go this time. Man, I'll tell you, I never breathed a sigh of relief like that in my life. And I'm still scared today when I think about it on my way to Portsmouth. And to top it all off, I had $50 on me. And the OD at the brig said, you hand me back 45. And he said, you just contributed $5 to the Red Cross. And I said, sir, may I have my cigarettes back? He said, you have just contributed that to the Marine Detachment. I said, get the hell out of here, sailor, before I lock you back up. And thank you, Captain, for not sending you a person.
We were only 17, 18 years old. I was standing out watching a 2-story. It was dark. The Mediterranean was very calm, pitch black night. Got on the phone on the lookout. 121 on the port side, 2-story. I see the torpedo coming at me. I pressed the phone down and I said, torpedo on the port side! And I ducked down and get my head towards the mouth. And I'm falling out, waiting for this ship to blow up. I can hear ding, 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 general quarters. I can hear the ship in the other convoy. Ding, ding, ding. Everybody's going to general quarters. And all of a sudden, some bug up on the bridge says, who reported that? I told this to him, the other story. Who reported this to the torpedo? And some dope says, Stephen Van Tower. Oh, God. I heard the captain without even on the phone. I said, get that man up there. I go up on the bridge, and the captain says, what happened? And another officer was up there and said, oh, that, on the port side, that was a porpoise.
The guys here, so we think we have Walter Heinrich here who got something to remember and share with us.
joined the Marine Corps on my 17th birthday, and I was waiting to get called, and I went to the movies, and I saw a picture called Destroyer. And Glenn Ford said to the blonde, "I'm a destroyer, man, I didn't run." So I walked out of the post office, and 9 days later I was in naval boot camp. The other thing is, we used to pull the radio watching Berserk. And Ronald Hudson Chevalier Smith was a second-class radioman. And I was, instead of being in high school, I was on this thing. And he says to me, we're pulling the watchman out of a French ship. So he says, you have to wear your boots, you have to wear your belt, and your cap. And he says, bring a lot of quarters, because I have all these machines with candy and everything. And he had me walk over there in my boot camp outfit, stand the radio watching Berserk. The other thing, a couple of summers ago, I was in the Baltimore harbor with my wife, my grandson Sean. I was on a water taxi, we were going by a cutter. And I said to the kid, "What's the name of that cutter?" He said, "The USS Laning." And that's where I stood the French radio watch. But here I am, I talk about Casablanca, of all the gin joints in the world, of all the harbors in the world, of all the ships in the world. I'm standing 40-odd years later with my grandson looking at a flagship, which I used to think was big. It looks like a rowboat. And when I think now that these things had a beam of about 38 feet, I can't believe it. But anyway, it's an experience I never would trade. And I remember you always call the captain the old man. And I got appointed as his messenger. I remember we were having a sub shoot wooden torpedoes at us. I went up there and I'm looking at this man. He looked like a fighter. He was a very handsome man, but he looked tough. He looked like a fighter. He had the stance, he had everything. But he had a touch of gray. And I thought, Jesus, he's an old man. I now have children who are older than he was then. Thanks a lot, and thank you very much for that, for going to the academy.
Okay, anybody else want to give us a short story? Every story or any kind of story. I know we got into when we were mischievous seamen. So let's hear a crow. This is the true story. Every time we had a movie aboard ship, Captain always wants to see the Monaco Rascals, and they always play that song, "They Go On Hard." This went on quite a while. Every time we saw a movie, this was before we saw a movie, he had to have "They Go On Hard." Next thing you know, woman projected that forward and says, "Captain, we don't have to take hard now. It was over the side." So I threw it over the side. Then it come about that batting baseball, we always had to see batting baseball before we saw a movie. Next thing you know, batting baseball went over the side, and the movie projected in, "Oh, Captain, we don't have the batting baseball anymore." Okay, great. We never saw that anymore. Then one day we had to go along the tanker, and we had gotten 55 gallons of paint. We bought another ship, and next thing you know, the 55 gallons of paint was thrown in the drain. Captain Stewart had myself and first class Hayward up all night trying to find out who threw the paint over the side. To this day, I don't know who threw the paint over the side. We really don't know. Then we were just in harbor. And up in Korea, Captain Stewart sent the special feeding. The other people down there pick up fuel from the tanker. All of a sudden, everybody was still all set to go pick up the fuel. Next thing you know, the quartermaster says, "Captain, there is no wheel. We can't get on the way." He said, "What do you mean there's no wheel?" It was
One day we pulled into the dirty, and we had to get fuel, so we went alongside this Italian tank here. About an hour we filled up fuel, but at the same time, letting it go the wine came aboard. And after about an hour, I was walking on kind of funny. I think the captain says to inspect the lockers. On the back, have a locker room. Lieutenant Tyler was there the weekend. Says, open up the locker. There's wine here. I smell it. Standing like this, I smell the wine. I'm standing behind him. The air stuff up there. Somebody put a bottle up there and spilled over. And he gripped it behind his shoulder. There's wine here.
Most of you people don't know me. I'm Radio Smith, and I'm a very quiet guy. I'm here to tell you on behalf of two of your shipmates that couldn't make it, Frank Sedlock and Kenny Richards. And the story they wanted to convey to the officers of our good ship was how well they could keep a secret. The three of us got our blood test on the same day to get married. We were in Doctor Philadelphia because we figured we'd done valiantly in the medical region, we would never see the other side. And Captain Schumann, they want to thank you for getting us back. They don't want to thank you for not letting us know that we've been married happily, all three of us. Wives are still in good shape after 47 years. Thank you.
I have that story when I was came on in August of 43, and I stayed until November 45. And during that period, I forgot the first year what I did, but the second year I was exec to the skipper. And we got along very well, I think. At least he never put me in confinement quarters too often.
You got lucky.
And Gilbert told my fellow officer, geez, wouldn't you like to take his spot? I said, God, no, I got enough trouble. And who wants to take responsibility here? And I was a lousy man, and I didn't know anything about the sea. I just came out with college and he'd been to sea all his life with ships, and he went to Bermuda. And he had a lot of purposes, which he deserved. But then there was one thing I did envy. And it wasn't that he came in, as you said, he drove the ship in like an automobile and rode in there. But I was a little envious of him because no sooner did we line up at the dock, the third repeater went up and he went up. He was the first guy off the ship, and I would like to have been the first guy off the ship once. And I don't want it. I do think it's been fabulous reunion, and I know that we all appreciate it, what Ned has done for us, but the thing that impressed me is this, Eric, it is one absolutely fantastic. We really, on behalf of everybody, we can't thank you enough, Eric.
Thank you.
I don't want to prolong this much longer, but I spoke to Chief Lewicki in California, and he just sent all his best regards to Captain Schumann and all the crew. Lewicki has been in a wheelchair for the last 18 years. He has MS, and he just couldn't make this reunion. He just wants everybody to know over here that he's been thinking of us all and just have a happy reunion.
I spent a lifetime addressing groups, so this is nothing new to me. However, there are a couple things that I want to say.
I know we're all in accord with that. There are a couple things I wanted to tell you about. I was a plank owner of the Laning with many of you. And at that time, Captain Schumann was our exec, Lieutenant Commander Schumann, and he was obviously going to take command of the Laning as soon as Captain Woodard deemed him ready to assume that high office. And as we all know, Captain Woodard was probably one of the poorest examples of ship handler that the Academy ever graduated.
We like that.
So this particular night, which was nearing the time that the command was going to be exchanged, well, I'm getting ahead of myself. Woodard would do this. We come into the slip every night, and he'd go into the middle of the slip. He always insists that a bosun was on the forecastle with a line-throwing gun. And so he'd creep into the slip in the middle. The bosun would fire the line-throwing gun, and they would warp us over. They'd take it to the winch and warp the ship over to the dock. And one night my wife said to me, she says, you know, every night when the Laning comes in, it's a source of amusement to all of the people in the Navy Yard. She said, have you noticed how well your event is attended? And I said, no. And she said, you look the next time. And sure enough, they were lined up to slip to see the Laning come in. And Schumann, or rather Woodward, would go through this usual routine, and we'd warp the ship over to the pier tied up. So this next particular time, he said to then Lieutenant Commander Schumann, he said, you can take her in tonight. So we all know that Captain Schumann was a great ship handler. So he comes into the pier, or into the slip that night, going about 1/3, backed her down, wheeled her over and parked her like you would a car in a lengthwise parking space. And I looked over, and I was always on the con at that time, relaying commands to the wheel. And I looked over to Captain Woodard, and he was white. And he says, you know, Mr. Schumann, some night the boys down there wouldn't answer the bell, and then what the hell are you going to do? We never missed the bell down there. Another experience I had, we were sent as a target ship up in the Sound out of the submarine base, and we were running as a target ship, and the subs would go out and fire at us. And this particular day, I had the con, and the captain came up and sat up in the bucket seat and sunning himself, and he's talking to me all the time, and I'm talking back and so forth, and we're having a great conversation. And all of a sudden, he said, you haven't taken a bearing on that lighthouse in the last 20 minutes. And I said, Captain, you're not being fair to me, damn it. You've been talking to me, I haven't had a chance. You get down to your cabin for 3 days, bring subordination. That was all right with me because I got all the standing watches, but their other officers felt that I enjoyed it too much. The last thing I would like to say, and I think I know this pertains to all of us, I'd like to give you the Irish prayer. May the road rise up to meet you. May the wind always be at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face, and the rains fall gently upon your fields. And until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of his hands.
Now we reach that time in the program where we want to give our prayers to our deceased shipmates. I would like a moment of silence, if you will, for all the land deceased shipmates. And Bader, Van Coxon, Birch, DJ Lieutenant, Lombard, H.H., Seaman, ship's cook, second class. Calvino, C.N., Seaman, second class. Childress, J.J., Seaman, first class. Esworthy, B.H., Seaman, first class. Evans, W.A., Chief Pharmacist's mate. Hanlon, W.N., Seaman, second class. Herman, J.G., Dock, Lieutenant, who bids the mighty ocean deep, its own appointed limits keep. Oh, hear us while we cry to thee, for those in peril on the sea. Now it's time, I guess, that we should get on with the rest of the evening. And it's now time, it's down to the 40s to get in the swing. So God bless you, and I thank you, and I want to thank you.
This is a museum in Washington. Oh yeah, there.
You want me to carry? Here's one.
Depth charge. We're watching a movie here. On the North Atlantic.
One of the lookouts, might have been oil.
Yeah.
Inside the mess hall. That's climate.
Okay, I think we're all here now. People coming, y'all.